Countdown and the midseason showdown. As we do move into the postseason picture, I thought it wise that we take another look at the patch. All of our pros will be playing on 11.5. I'm particularly interested in the meta when it comes to the champions themselves. So Crumbs, over to you first. Now that we are moving into the playoff picture, what are you looking at?
When playoffs happen, Dash, it is always about globals. These champions always surface, the Shens and the Twisted Fates. Now, Shen is going to be highly relevant because TSM has already played 3 games of it, and one of those was a win against Team Liquid. Twisted Fate has a ton of priority around the world, a great strategy. Now, the mid laners here don't necessarily play them, but it will be a good strategy to surprise your opponent, play to the sidelines. The new ones, the Karma, this champion continues to get buffed for no apparent reason. She is crazy busted, a 3-way flex, works really well with the hyper carries that are popping up with the Tristana and the Jinx. And speaking of hyper carries, who better to delete them than Malphite? You already have Sion in the top lane as a great tank. Malphite is the next one. He's going to be able to instantly delete them, and if you try to even peel for them with a Thresh, good luck. Malphite gets rid of them like that.
Crumbs, I'm glad you brought up globals, because looking at what other leagues have used on 11.5 as opposed to LCS, there are 2 picks that I would love to see. The first is Nocturne. It's a flex. Here you're going to see Doinby playing it because, of course, Doinby plays mid Nocturne, but Nocturne can be flexed across multiple different roles. If you just want to hear the glory of Nocturne, go hit up Vedius on Twitter from LEC. We also have the Karthus jungle, which I also really like. Obviously, there's still the clear speed plus the global ultimate, and the 2 work super well together. As you can see here, Schalke played them last week, I believe, together. These are 2 picks that I would please love to see out of LCS teams. Maybe.
All right,
because I really like him.
Look,
Brad's is already shaking his head. He's like, no chance.
The pretty please is out there.
Definitely don't ask Vedius if you want to win.
No. But here's the thing. Vedius has got to be at home watching right now. And if he is, Emily just made him the happiest man. But now he's got to stay awake for the whole duration of this best of 5 just to see if Nocturne does get played. But Raz, let's focus in on one lane specifically when it comes to champions. And the lane I want to focus on is the mid lane, because that was the one position, rather, that at the tail end of the LCS split, we saw a fair amount of experimentation with things like the Ahri and the Veigar coming out. What is your take on the mid lane meta?
Yeah, 11.14 was very large. It was a large patch. It took time for players to really understand, abuse it. So champions that are in front of me, like the Ahri, the Veigar, these are some picks that we've seen actually specifically from Jensen, but also from Humanoid in the LEC, specifically the Ahri. Silas, we've seen seldom. It is a great counter pick. Cassidum, I'm expecting a little bit more in specific counter pick situations because of the items underneath you. Like the items that did get changed gradually, you know, Ionian Boots of Lucidity coming into the fray, certain things like ability haste becoming more and more prevalent. It was Everfrost that got buffed. Cosmic Drive got a huge buff, by the way, from 30 to 40 ability haste if you hit that easy 160 AP threshold. And so now you come into a situation where you have, if you include Zhonya's, 90 ability haste, barring Transcendence and Rune stats, which if you cast your mind back to last season is around like 47% CDR. You're easily now breaking the CDR box. It's
awful.
Ridiculous. So even just so people know what that looks like, the Foxfire, the W from Ahri, can go as low as 2 seconds for cooldown. So you can just spam the 40% movement speed. It's insane. Like
It's Earth
event horizon from Veigar can go into 5
Basically.
seconds. Exactly. So it really is pushing some champions into the fray.
Well, I think what's ridiculous about it too, Raz, as you mentioned, by showing the actual items themselves, is it's faster to get to that point as well. Most of the time, people weren't hitting that 40 to 45% number until the 5th, maybe 6th item, but you can get it with just the boots plus 3. I mean, that's absolutely absurd. And so, I mean, myself as well, I've been having fun just in normal games experimenting with different champions. How low can I get those cooldowns? How much spamming can I do? Maybe we'll see a little bit of it today. But now it is time to refocus our attention towards the series at hand. It's TSM, it's Team Liquid, and they're going at it in a best of 5. Back on the wall behind me is what you at home had to say about this matchup. That's right, we went to the fans on Twitter to get ourselves a report card as a jumping off point to talk about these 2 teams. So we're gonna dive right in and hit each of these categories beat by beat. We're starting in the drafting phase. And Raz, the community is quite split on this one. TL only getting just barely a majority at 51%. Do you agree? Disagree? Where are you at?
I agree. I think they are far more flexible in the mid lane in what they can pick. So I'm expecting the ability to be able to move throughout a best of 5, where TSM a little bit more constricted, but I do like their drafts recently.
Okay, all right. So the drafting, a small edge towards Team Liquid, but honestly, a very, very even approach for both these teams. So let's dive into the moment that the champions hit the Rift, Emily, the early game. Again, the fans at home have given it to Team Liquid, but in a much greater spread this time, near 70%.
Yeah, and that's not surprising. TL's early game is just absolutely insane. They get so much priority from their laners. I already talked about how much Santorin does for this team early, especially in the jungle meta that we've had. And, you know, one thing that we didn't touch upon, but I'm going to touch upon really quickly, is Core JJ. I think he's been actually a really, really strong component of why their early game has been so good. His early roams, him and Santorin putting everyone ahead. Alfari gets a ton of advantages on the top side by himself. It's been the transitioning through the mid game that they've had some issues with, and that's where I think signs favor TSM.
And especially the late game as well, because you remember that terrible early game against Cloud9. They're able to come back, but also against Team Liquid. This was actually week 4 where Team Liquid is ahead the whole time, but Tactical gets caught a few times. TSM makes some good late game calls, and they suddenly win. This has happened already twice. So with TSM can always come out closing the game stronger, that's going to push you in an advantageous position in a best of series. Even getting the Baron steals together. This is something that Team Liquid have to watch out for. They need to clean up their late game, or else TSM will punish again like they've already done 2 times in the regular season.
Yeah, and you pointed out Baron. TSM's Baron control is absolutely insane. It is 76%. They are significantly ahead of everyone else in the league. I think their counter objective control setup is typically very good too, as in someone else sets up around an objective and they're able to come in and kind of counter that. You can also blame that on whatever team is setting up for the objective. Maybe they've had some issues setting up for it. But I do think TSM react and respond well typically to a lot of objective setups that teams have and are usually able to turn them to their advantage.
All right, so that takes us through both the late game as well as play styles to a degree. And so now, Raz, it's time for us to focus in on a couple specific matchups. We're going to take a look at 2, but we're going to start in the mid lane. So continuing that conversation, PoE, Jensen. The community says PoE's got the edge. Do you agree?
Yeah. I don't agree. I think PoE is definitely looking incredibly good by the end of it. But community, I think if we looked at the early laning stats for Jensen, pops out at you, because Jensen, even in bad matchups, has overperformed in those. Early laning phase, I would give it to Jensen. He just is put in those positions where he has to, you know, give a lot for the team composition to work. So I would actually favor Jensen. The power of evil is right there with him. What am I hearing there, Crumbs? What do you not agree with, sir?
I don't agree with anything you said, Rat. None of it. I think the mid lane is all PoE. I think the fact that PoE's champion pool is smaller is never a weakness. We've always cited that it's not a weakness, it's a strength. He's doubling down on what works. Jensen has spread himself too thin, and PoE, with the addition of Bjergsen, I think has become the best mid laner in the league. You can see it in his play. He's so much more aggressive. On top of having Bjergsen behind him, they also have Curry, the mid laner, the coach from FlyQuest that took them to the finals. I think PoE all the way for mid.
I love it. We have found the first significant point of contention on the desk for the day, and that means there will be plenty of spice to follow. But there is one final matchup that we must talk about, and that's the supports. Again, Emily, you talked about the fact that it was the toughest of the categories to vote in when it came to the All-Pro voting, and we had 2 of the big contenders in that voting here today on stage. It's Sword Art, it's Core JJ.
Yeah, and I mean, both of these, the thing that stands out to me is the duo procs, actually. You'd expect, given what people think of Cord, that his duo procs would be actually higher than Sword Art's. But again, that just points to how much he roams and ends up helping out TL. I think it's actually kind of an underrated part of his gameplay right now.
Raz, what's your take on the support situation?
Yeah, I mean, At the beginning of the split, I dreamed of this matchup when I hear Sword Art is coming to the LCS, that we're going to be seeing him go up against Core JJ. I think Sword Art has looked incredibly good in the last 3 games. In the last few weeks, he's been spot on. I would favor Core JJ still. I think he's at the right places at the right times. If there's a dive top lane, he is there to make it a 3-man play. So I would edge it to Core JJ.
All right, cool. From here, Crumbs, I do want to come back to you on the mid lane conversation because it just occurred to me, it was just brought up to me, that we missed a very important and integral part of your argument for as to why PoE is the favored mid laner in the matchup. Let's get to it now.
The joining of the minds, the best mid laner that we've had in the LCS combined and entering the mind of PoE.
What
This
is
is a match made
this?
in heaven. When I heard this lineup happening, I knew this would be a great match. I am so excited to see them play in the playoffs. Look at that. This is just beautiful.
Well, you know, Raz, I wanted to say that I was convinced by all of your brilliant arguments, and then Crumbs had to come in with this one here right at the end, and I feel like I'm now on the PoE train.
Who's working with him behind the scenes for this stuff?
I know.
Look, it's the same power of evil, right? He's looking good, but we ain't giving him that much credit.
I think it just materialized. I think that is actually what happened when the meetings of the minds occurred. All right, we're just about ready for the teams to hit the rift, but as we are moving into the best of 5s in the playoff scenario, I want to get the 3 of you on record for the first time here in playoffs with this best of 5, TSM and Team Liquid. Who's going to take it and in how many games? We'll start with you, Raz, on the far end.
I'll have to go Team Liquid 3-1. I was battling with this one. I think TSM are a strong team-fighting squad, but Team Liquid is a team that gets on the objective first, has great control, and I think when it comes to playoff time that they will, not receive that control.
All right, well, these are teams next to each other in the regular season standings, so Emily, I expect it to be a contentious one, but do you?
I expect the series to be really close. I actually went 3-2. I think it's actually highly probable it's going to be one of these teams and C9 in the finals. But yeah, I think the thing I'm looking at is based on their previous matchups, that early game versus TSM's strong mid-game macro and late-game team fighting. It's a really interesting matchup because of that. And yeah, I think it's going to be close, but I think TL are going to edge it out.
All right, Crumbs, is the PoE Bjerg duo enough to sway the tides here in TSM's favor?
Make it a sweep.
It was. This was not a hard choice for me. TSM 3-1. Not only have they 2-0'd them already in the regular season, but because Alfari is not going to be able to get the same advantages against Huni, Team Liquid is not going to be able to find the individual outplays that they have needed to win games. That's why I think TSM, because they can hold down the top lane and have been better as a team in the late game, will come out ahead. 3-1.
Well, there it is. The predictions are there. The stage is set. Ladies and gentlemen, it's time for us to hand it back over to Kobe and Flowers to kick off the midseason showdown.
Thank you very much, Dash. I'm Captain Flowers, and this incredibly well-dressed man to my left and your right is Mr. Sam Kobe Hartman Kinsler, and we will be taking you through what I hope is all 5 games here today.
Yeah, I certainly hope so. I'm going to predict a 5-game series right here for TSM versus Team Liquid. The analyst has touched on so many good points. We also have these really good rivalries, blowing up. Sword Art calling out Core JJ, saying, oh, he's whining for the jungler to come gank bottom lane all the time when they play versus us. Alfari going on record saying they are going to smash this early game every single game versus TSM. He has definitely put his money where his mouth is thus far in the regular season, so I'm excited to see that actually play out on Summoner's Rift.
We got all that going on Summoner's Rift. Behind the scenes, it's Coach Jat versus Coach Bjergsen. That's a sentence right there that a couple years ago would have just sounded completely preposterous. But here we are, in reality, getting TL versus TSM as the first best of 5 of this entire midseason showdown. And considering just how likely it is to see teams of this caliber end up in the final, this is one hell of a way to kick things off.
Certainly is. I would actually open it any other way. TSM versus Team Liquid right now, they tied at the end of the split as far as overall game score. But of course, TSM with the 2-0 in the regular season makes them feel confident in this matchup. And if you talk to the Team Liquid players, they're like, those were just our worst games. They felt like they just played really badly on those days. So definitely time to put up here and let's see it. we expect this early game draft to go towards Team Liquid, you know, saving counter pick for Alphari. They're on red side. That should be the standard play for them there. Alphari even, you know, talking in some of his interviews was hinting at some very spicy and aggressive picks for the top lane. So we expect Team Liquid to actually open up with, you know, bottom lane picks there, looking for a priority jungler. Usually we'll see Udyr banned out over on this side, plus the Hecarim. Still have not seen any of these jungle bans yet to start to whittle it down on. I think that Nidalee is actually one of these ones that have different priorities for both these teams. Spica is very good at Nidalee. He has so much confidence on this champion. We've heard so many times how the entire team is very willing to, you know, play towards his, you know, carry aggressive Nidalee, pick Renekton top or something like that. Meanwhile, Team Liquid, they have definitely shied away from that, much more looking at frontline champions like the Olaf, like the Udyr, like the Hecarim for Santorin.
Like perhaps maybe even a Skarner, but we'll have to wait and see. It's Tristana, it's Twisted Fate, it's Rel, it's Nidalee, it's Alistar, all banned away here in this first phase. One more ban to go for TL. They are letting the clock run out, and we will see the Kai'Sa ban. Hecarim is still open. It is a very common first pick on the blue side. Lots of teams have been picking this. It is an S-tier jungler in the current state of the game here on 11.5. We'll see if that's what TSM wants to go for here, get Spica rolling on a power pick early, or maybe they got something else up their sleeve. It is always fun to see how teams like to experiment once they go from best of ones into a best of 5 series environment. And instead, we're going to start off here with the Udyr, first pick by TSM.
So if you take the Udyr end of the Hecarim Udyr trade, then you also kind of hold in your back pocket the ability to change the rest of your draft to try and counter dive. Hecarim is much more of an all-in dive sort of champion. You want to craft your entire team comp to look for dive buddies or, you know, healing and shielding and speed ups for this champion as well. You know, things like Xayah as far as AD carry then rise in priority for the side of TSM. We'll see if Team Liquid round this one out early on, you know, with a bottom lane pick for Tactical as well. They banned out the Kai'Sa. That has been the priority for Lost, and Team Liquid have had a very low priority on it. You know, meanwhile, the all-in Tristana, you know, due to the general power and flexibility of being able to play both mid lane and bottom lane, taken away. But it's not going to be either of those. And the all-arounder Orianna here for Jensen, just waiting for the answer from PoE. Yeah, there it is.
Okay, so we get Orianna versus Azir. We see these two champions whenever Azir is in the meta. Orianna is one of those champions along with Corki, along with Syndra, that does often find its way up there to deal with him in that mid lane. Of course, at 11.5, Azir got some nerfs. The soldier damage is down early on. Power of Evil has still shown his ability to play the champion masterfully. It is one of his best champions whenever you see him popping off with it, so that'll be our mid lane matchup. And here we go, a little bit of a departure from what you were expecting at the start here, Kobe. Instead of waiting all the way to the end of the draft to give Alphari the counter pick, they're saying, all right, you already went with your top laner. We're going to pick the Gnar before you get a chance to ban it away. So here in the first half of the draft, we're seeing both solo lanes and both junglers for both these squads. And it's going to be all about the bottom lane in the second half.
Yeah, if you you know, first round here the Renekton, but while Team Liquid still have the pick, they don't have to wait for the last pick to be able to counter pick because it's already on the board and you don't want it to get banned out. Flowers, I really was hoping for the spicier version though. Alphari was even hovering over Quinn, you know, hinting at, yeah, we want to do this, you know, blasting 1v1 scenario here. Quinn counter into Renekton. Not going to be the case. Gnar still is a winning lane into Renekton. It's not quite as you know, pivotal as the Quinn to be able to camp up there, so it doesn't require as much attention, and is more versatile for these you know, team fights that you want to transition into. So I would say that already, you know, in the first 5 picks, we are seeing very, very standard team comps from both these sides. It is going to be Team Liquid with a little bit more dive you know, point here for their squad. They've got the Orianna for the heals, or for the shield and speed up that we're talking about for the Hecarim to be able to get that initiation, and Gnar for big AoE too. But TSM also very standard team comp with Renekton and Udyr frontline. And they're just whittling down on some of the AD carries now to take away options from Tactical as well as Lost. Tactical, I feel like, has been a little bit more of a small champion pool. The Xayah, I think, right now has really high priority with Jinx, Senna, and Ezreal all being taken off the board. So honestly, I kind of expect TSM to blind the Xayah, and we'll see if Tactical's got anything special lined up here.
Well, they pick up the Thresh on the side of Team Liquid. I really do like this choice. Thresh very effective at controlling enemy melee champions. They already see the Udyr. They already see the Renekton that want to dive in here and try to take Jensen and Tactical out of the picture. So CoreJJ says it doesn't matter what you're running there in the bottom lane. We are confident to pick up this. The answer out of TSM will not be the Xayah that you're talking about, but rather a Misfortune together with Seraphine. This bottom lane duo is absolutely nasty to lane against in a 2v2.
It certainly is. The Misfortune E into Senna, it guarantees that with the slow there from Misfortune, it lands instantly. So your Senna or your Seraphine will be a snare and root him up. Meanwhile, Tactical and CoreJJ, they have preferred to go for lane kills, preferred to go for Samira or Tristana, these all-in champions, but it's not going to be the case this time around. It's a CC-heavy bottom lane here with definitely defensive options with the Thresh Lantern for Tactical. And this has been a problem for Team Liquid, is Tactical in the mid and late game stages getting caught out. So if you have the Thresh early pick there for CoreJJ, you have definitely options. I think that's more towards the mid and late game, saving him, some repositioning so that if he does find himself in a bad spot, CoreJJ can correct it for him.
Now, one thing I want to talk about a little bit here is the history of the Misfortune Seraphine bottom lane, because back at the beginning of the year during the offseason, we remember that there were the NA in-houses going on with people in Challenger and Academy and LCS. CoreJJ was a big driving force behind those, and he often did play in a duo with Tactical in those games. CoreJJ and Tactical were two of the first players that I really saw running the Misfortune Seraphine combo. And when I say they were just demolishing in-houses with it, I'm talking the full suite of construction equipment. They had a wrecking ball. They had a bulldozer. If you laned against this combo, you just died. You went on their highlight reel, but it wasn't even a highlight reel because it was just them slamming you over and over and over again. It wasn't even exciting after a certain point.
Go ahead.
Hold on. I'm almost done. I know it's way too much detail. But they also know the counters. They know how to play against this, because as soon as other players started breaking it out against them, it was Tactical and CoreJJ that showed you the way that you fight MF Seraphine is that all-in style that you were talking about. That's why they hovered the Samira. Of course, she has been kneecapped with nerfs a little bit since, so they've gone with the Jhin. But I'm very excited to see CoreJJ and Tactical play up against this combo and see if Sword Art and Lost can beat them at their own game.
Yeah, I also want to point out that some things have changed with this Team Liquid bottom lane since the early days of Spring Split, since those in-houses before Spring even started. And people really want to see a resurgence for Tactical, because this guy, one of the hottest rookies last year, such a big outbreaking performance from Tactical, also performed extremely well for Team Liquid at Worlds, at the highest stage with the most pressure on him, but has suffered a little bit here, towards the mid stages of Spring and towards the end of Spring Split, with some of these poor positioning, getting caught out later. But also, we haven't seen as many dominating bottom lanes from Team Liquid from them. And we're definitely looking to continue that early tradition you're talking about of Tactical CoreJJ, getting these 2v2 kills early on. It just has not happened very recently for them. So TSM, they do have one sweeper here on the Seraphine for Sword Art. So they go for the delayed invade, get the sweeper, they get the extra experience, but and they're continuing on it for a split map here. TSM, they want to try and isolate the bottom side matchup for Lost and Sword Art, so they can continue to just throw out the harassment that you're alluding to, the Misfortune combo into the Seraphine snare.
Man, when you play a bottom lane that has the ability to just control the matchup with their powerful range like that, you love it when the jungler wants to play around your lane. It lets you be as aggro as you want to be. It lets you push it to the limits. And we'll see how those limits are pushed up here in the Renekton versus Gnar matchup as well. Huni and Alphari. Alphari, of course, the big outstanding performer here in the top lane over the course of this split. The guy sort of at the top of everybody's lists. And Huni being the dark horse. The conversation around Huni, Kobe, is always so much fun. because you have some people saying, what the hell, Huni is inting every other game. He just dives and dies randomly. And other people are like, Huni is the second coming of Christ here in the top lane. As Spica gets caught out a little bit trying to steal away the enemy Gromp, he will not end up losing it. However, he does have the smite, able to secure that one away just fine. So we'll see both of these junglers do a full clear of one half of their opponent's jungle.
And they even ignite him. Flowers, what was that? Like, CoreJJ and Tactical
They were
both,
really in there.
Yeah, they both go up there. They land the play. They throw down Ignite. The communication already for Team Liquid, a little bit jumpy there. Definitely some split decision making. They decide to back off. I'm assuming that was, hey, the wave at our tower is dying right now. We are going to lose out experience trying to harass Spica, and they didn't want to try and chase him super far. He still had flash available. So assuming that was the call off, but it looked like, at least CoreJJ was on the page of let's kill him, get him out of our jungle. He hits the play, hits the Ignite, and let him walk away.
Yeah, losing that summoner spell just means less of that all-in potential. Having healing reduction against a champion like Seraphine, who's so good at defending when you try to dive onto her. Very important stuff. So that means CoreJJ and Tactical will probably be waiting on that one before they try to make any kind of a move. Even more so, considering Spica's still just playing on this bottom half of the map. He's fine with the full vertical jungling approach. He wants to make sure that he's always shadowing these guys. Look at his movement right back into the enemy jungle just to pop the Scryer's Bloom and maintain absolute control over everything neutral on this bottom half of the map, including the plants, man.
Yeah, he's even going to make a slight visit towards mid lane here. Jensen, you can see this is correct for mid laners. You should always hover to your jungler's side of the map. They split the map. No, error here. No opening Jensen is giving to Spica for that, easy possible gank there. Flash for Udyr to try and get some summoners out of Jensen. He easily just hovers to the top side of the map. He knows he has Santorin there. Spica has to still be on the bottom side, so no action with Spica's early visit towards that side of the map. And he actually runs over this ward without popping the Scryer's Bloom. By popping your Scryer's Bloom, of course, you're going to alert your opponents to your position. And so he just wanted to chance it, see if there's no vision. Does get...
Right. We can see that. Oh, never mind. It don't even matter that he walked over the ward. It's first blood for Spica, and Alphari will fall.
Honestly, that is pretty nutty. When you have a situation, you see the jungler coming up there, Alphari knows. He knows that Udyr just walked up here into the tri-bus, and he's like, let me go ward it just to make sure. Is he really in there? But that's too close! That's too close, man! You run towards the brush with the Udyr in it, right around the corner, honestly. I think he just underestimated the speed. He was expecting Spica to just be in the brush rather than running up to the corner. Outside of Fog of War on that little corner, couldn't see Spica run straight into the bear slap, and that's first blood.
There's a reason that the copy pasta isn't walk stun job done. The boy is fast. And Spica gets there in time to grab that first blood. Look at the first purchase too. The Ionian Boots of Lucidity are such a popular choice for champions like this on the first back if you can afford them. When movement speed is the entirety of what your champion does, getting it early and getting it often helps so much.
Certainly does. Honestly, too, Lucidity Boots is a great rush for almost every jungler in the meta right now. Because you don't have to build into your jungle item with the preseason changes, so many people have given over to rushing for that early move speed. Your move speed actually helps your clear speed as a jungler, because a lot of the time is transitioning between these camps, running to them faster, and the cooldown reduction is actually so valuable. It reduces the cooldown on your early smites. You want to be able to transform your smite into your blue smite for your extra slow. You see now for Spica, still has 2 more to go to be able to get that transformation. Santorin's actually here at level 6, a little bit of an experience lead because of the extra deviation towards topside.
Both junglers are hanging out up here. One important thing to note, though, Santorin with that ulti, and Spica, even if he was level 6, remember, it's just not as big of a deal for Udyr as it is for everybody else. So they must respect the power of the onslaught of shadows here from Santorin. Power of Evil is also hanging around this area, but with Spica having already claimed the Scuttle Crab for himself, there's not much left for Santorin to pursue here until CoreJJ paths his way towards the top lane, and they might just have enough manpower to make this one work. Now Santorin will clear out this control ward without Core JJ showing himself here just yet. Just in case Spica wants to come over that wall and fight him here, he'll accidentally jump into a bad fight. And now you can see the vision. They recognize Core JJ is there. Pings coming out from TSM into the tri-brush, saying this could be a bit of an iffy fight. But now you've got Sword Art having rotated up here as well. The numbers should be even once again. 80 carries left on their own to farm. Sword Art walking up the river. Spica's still waiting. Hooney's down to about half HP. Alfari's walking away, and TSM's coming in to make the moves. A TP shows up, and Santorin tries for the play onto the top laner, but it will not work. Flash out. We'll see if Power of Evil's able to make something happen here. Core JJ with a flash away, and Power of Evil expends both summoner spells, but they will not get anything.
What is this, a game of snakes and ladders? We got Blast Cone popping everybody over different walls. PoE does get hooked, but Jensen very low on mana, so he doesn't even use the Shockwave. Just uses the W combination there for a little bit of damage. Flowers, we've got multiple people trying to set up with some sneaky Blast Cone plays. In the end, no blood is drawn, but so many flashes burn. PoE now is a vulnerable Azir in the mid lane, so maybe some renewed focus from Team Liquid there. I will say, though, already with that first blood that Speak was able to get so easily on Alfari and being able to return to the top side for your early Rift Herald, this is completely counter to so many games that we saw in the regular split, where TSM got behind in the early game. This is guaranteed advantage for TSM early game. First blood money, Rift Herald is an advantage trade, just considering a dragon. Even if you had to give up first Drake, it's not worth nearly as much as the priority of your jungler picking up solo Rift Herald there. You can get extra turret plate money. You can snowball off of extra tower damage as well. So TSM already starting this series out, countering a lot of the expectations that people had.
Well, we're not seeing a super early first Drake here, but right as the clock hits 9 minutes, it's Team Liquid rotating their bottom lane over to Santorin to help him take this one. We don't see anyone from TSM in the area. They're not too concerned about it, so that should be a free Drake for the side of TL here. One last Q and auto attack means Santorin picks it up. So TL's on the board with that, and we will be keeping an eye on Spica, who still has a little bit over 3 of the 4 minutes remaining on that Rift Herald. Where and when he summons it, of course, if they just get the 2 plates or if they end up getting even more than that out of proper usage of it. But Spica's down here in the bottom lane once more. We'll see if they try to set up any sort of a play here in the bottom lane for TSM, because Lost and Sword Art are now both level 6. Having that ultimate combo between those 2 champions is a huge amount of kill threat.
Yeah, that combination can CC you, lock you up for a full kill. I will say, again, with even the dragon being traded over, 9 out of 10 junglers will all take the Rift Herald as long as you don't have to spend extra resources in favor of the first dragon, because that instant power can do so much in snowballing. And with TSM here, with the Renekton into Gnar on top side matchup for Huni, he's actually done quite well for himself with the early stages, considering the map was jungle split against him, and Santorin had full priority on top side for the early stages. You see Alfari still trying to get some more harassment. He did go for the cull, so he's got a little bit of extra gold cash in coming later, in addition to his small CS lead. But since then, TSM have been defending this position on top side very, very frequently with Spica, as well as constant roams from Sword Art. And Spica does get the stun on a Santorin.
Yeah, Santorin's sticking around trying to fight this. Meanwhile, top lane turned into a 1v1 of its own. So we've got 2 separate 1v1s happening here. Santorin did not win out in his. Spica then maintains control over the top side. River to go after Jensen. Power of Evil following up on this one, sending the soldiers a little bit further. Jensen with the flash over the wall. Santorin looking to try to get in there and save his buddy. Walks away with almost no HP left. Jensen with a shockwave. Spica with the Chad flash. Takes him down, but it's a 1-for-1. Power of Evil guarantees a TSM advantage here in this fight.
And now PoE, not only does he get the extra kill, but he also gets the red buff for himself. Heals right back up. He can shove this wave in. That will allow him a very nice reset. He does not have teleport. Jensen does, so Jensen was in a position to be able to make, counterplay on top side, or even just teleport for extra wave priority, for extra tempo. But with this chase down in mid lane, now Power of Evil actually has to escape.
Power of Evil trying to dash away. Good interrupt there with the Flay coming out from Core. Trying to see if they can lock him down long enough to get the damage here, but a good sidestep away from death sentence means Power of Evil lives to see another day.
And we have a first big outplay in the Power of Evil versus Jensen iteration of TL versus TSM. So many people talking about, the old rivalry of Jensen and Bjergsen, and so much history there. And now with Bjergsen heading to coach and choosing a champion to fight for him in Power of Evil, definitely seems like it's turning out pretty well thus far for TSM, with the extra kills plus assists going over to PoE. Spica does so much here, though. He just ran off Santorin and got the early health lead towards mid. Then he chases down Jensen to force the flash and get him here. Shockwave does a significant amount of damage, and so he's low, but he just barely gets off his Phoenix auto, and Santorin has to commit his R in to counter kill. So PoE now with Rift Herald at his back as well is going to chunk this down to one more turret plate for TSM. They get the quick gold cash in. It's approaching 13 minutes, so another minute left there for them to try and finagle maybe a better Rift Herald. But honestly, the early damage on mid goes a very long way. Plus, they guarantee that they're going to get the gold cash in.
Yeah, you guarantee the gold, you guarantee damage on mid, and it's one of the advantages of this objective compared to a Dragon that you were talking about earlier. Yeah, the Dragon's going to give that small bonus to armor and MR to everyone on the team, but Rift Herald allows Spica to guarantee that he's helping Power of Evil specifically to make sure that this mid lane carry that has done so much work for this team over the course of the split can get to the mid game at a point of power and really be able to influence these team fights, which is exactly what TSM wants to do.
And it's a big domino effect. With PoE outplaying the teleport from Jensen in mid lane, dodging even while slowed away from Port JJ's hook, and surviving there, not only did he just not give away any gold or mid priority to Team Liquid during this time frame, he now has teleport advantage himself because of the attempted play from Team Liquid. And this is one thing that I've been calling out for Power of Evil for the entirety of Spring Split. He has been his normal, standard, very good laning, control mage, scaling player from mid lane. But something he's done for TSM that has gone a long way in securing them a lot of their comebacks towards mid and late game is teleport for his allies. So many times he'll teleport to cover Huni in 2v1 scenarios while he's split pushing, or teleport towards the bottom lane to turn around these team fights. And that's where TSM have gained a lot of their comebacks towards the mid game, is with a lot of this defensive covering that he does, playing for his teammates rather than using a lot of the teleports back to lane, back to, for tempo for himself. And TSM, with that priority, are able to take up Dragon number 2 and put a stop to any sort of early Dragon stacking Team Liquid might have their thoughts at.
And that means that the Infernal Rift has awoken, so an Infernal Soul on the table if this one goes the distance. Very powerful stuff in anybody's hands. And as we've been singing the praises of TSM for their good early game here thus far, Spica's playmaking, Power of Evil's outplaying of Jensen's TP, it is worth noting that the gold lead is not substantial here so far. Not even 1,000 just yet, as Team Liquid has been farming better in the jungle, in the top lane, in the mid lane. They've got higher CS counts, and it's keeping the game nice and close for them. You can see total gold there on the left. Power of Evil has the most, but Jensen's right behind him by not even 150. So very, very closely contested match here. 15 minutes in, the red buff has spawned for Team Liquid, and Spica is not one to allow that to go uncontested. It is written in the DNA of Udyr players, you must contest the enemy red buff, and Spica goes in for it, forcing Santorin away.
Yeah, Santorin also early smites there. You saw almost 100 HP still left on that red buff. No extra burst damage on it. So in the end, is stolen away, plus chased out of his own jungle. And while the gold lead is not substantial right now for TSM, look at this map control. They have both rivers under control right now. Bottom side getting Scuttle Crab. They push up bottom lane. Spica actually starting up this Rift Tail, causing Alfari to come over. But this is an exhausted Gnar. Right after you transition back to mini form, you are locked out of generating rage for a decent period of time. So he can't really build that threat of a Mega Gnar, counter there. So even though Spica's like, oh, you know what? We got 2 people up here. I'm not really afraid. You still have a big timer there while Alfari is going to be just a cute, cuddly version. No extra scary threat behind that.
Just a little teddy bear. They need a grizzly, and they ain't going to get one, and that means that the second Rift Herald of the game goes over to TSM. Spica will have that one ready to go wherever he chooses to use it. Could be summoned up mid lane if they want to destroy that tier 1. Yes, it's almost dead anyway, but sometimes you just need that extra firepower. Jensen's going after Sword Art, goes for the Shockwave, and forces the flash out of the TSM support.
Yeah, that's definitely a very valuable trade there for Team Liquid, because the only way that would be a poor trade is if you immediately had a fight coming up and the small cooldown on Shockwave would actually get punished. Sword Art without the flash will be very vulnerable here for TSM. They're going to need him to work with Spica. As soon as you're a ranged support enchanter like that, and you get your flash blown, you cannot go contest vision in any of these risky situations by yourself. No. You have to link up with your jungler. You have to hold hands, and you see already they're doing immediately that. Spica leading the way for him to get some of the deeper vision and more dangerous job done.
All right, TSM jungler and support doing some slice of life, hand-holding, walking through the jungle, having a great time here.
Wouldn't it
Team
be
Liquid
nice?
will do whatever they can to sweep those wards away and make sure that this is not a happy time for TSM. And Huni is not having a great time up against Alphari up here with the Stride Breaker completed. That Gnar is very difficult to deal with when he's just kiting you around there in that mini form. Meanwhile, back in the bottom lane, the turret has been taking a whooping, Kobe, and that thing has nearly fallen on the side of TL. Remember the turret first turret bonus. I almost call it a turret first blood bonus, but turrets don't bleed. That's still on the board. Anybody can take it. And now a beautiful outplay there from Power of Evil, throwing Santorin back into the turret, but it will not be enough. Team Liquid just brought more bodies, and they get the kill here in the mid lane.
Yep, Santorin just charges right back over, and he knocks PoE into Core JJ's hook. Look at the synergy there on the mid play, and it's actually Team Liquid now retaking control off of a pivotal kill here, picking off the Azir. You lose your wave clear. Now it's just two melee champions trying to clear it out.
And then Core JJ doing what Thresh does as Huni slices forward. He immediately takes care of him with the death sentence into the play, flashes away just to guarantee he doesn't give away a free kill. And then Team Liquid will continue to push here in the mid lane, but it is TSM who take the first turret of the game. They're in bottom lane.
I love how hotly contested this first game of the series is, Captain Flowers.
Yes.
Get them. Huni actually goes in for the trade, and we'll take another look at the play here from Santorin. He was able to ultimate in, then immediately had gotten off his devastating charge and knocks him back into Core JJ's hook with the fear proc going off. Team Liquid, they have still been counterpunching TSM, gaining some extra demolish procs here for Alphari on the top side. That's probably going to be enough for him to stick around and finish up this turret. So Team Liquid should be able to answer 1-for-1 in early turret gold, and that will push them 100 gold, a whopping 100 gold here, right back over into the lead until TSM retake it with the mid tower. And meanwhile, Spica does force the blue buff onto Santorin with the smite fight, though he does not steal it away.
Alrighty, goodbye, Mr. Dragon. That one goes over to TSM here yet again. So over the 5 neutral objectives that have spawned so far in this game, 3 Drakes and 2 Rift Heralds, 4 of those have gone over to TSM. Thanks to their control over the neutral territory, thanks to their control over both parts of this river, as you mentioned earlier. So good signs for TSM here early on. Sword Art is nearby, helping out Speak as they try to catch Alphari a little bit, but he can get himself away, and TSM will not pursue this any further. Instead, regrouping around the mid lane to make sure they're able to defend this tier 1 turret. Shelly has been summoned up, unfortunately, right here because she was about to run out. You got to summon her eventually, but it looks like this will be a Rift Herald that does not get a whole lot of work done. Speak is going forward. Run, stun, job done. Jensen cannot ever get away from that one. And Huni's got the kill on the enemy mid laner. Core JJ is caught on the wrong side of the river, and Speak is going to help him get home. TSM picking up 2.
It was a trap, Captain Flowers. They used the Rift Herald as bait. Oh, they bait Team Liquid into trying to come kill off Shelly, and they double teleport TSM with the Master Tactician actually going for PoE, sweeps him back and trades ultimates.
Oh, did I say that was going to be a bad Rift Herald? I was just testing you guys. That was the greatest Rift Herald of all time. They bait him in for the double kill. They get the tier 2 turret anyway. And TSM is up to almost a 2,000 gold lead now, 21 minutes into this game.
Captain Flowers, it's time for review. Everybody was looking at 2 things to be solved for both teams in this matchup. For TSM, the question was posed, can you correct your early game? And already in game number 1, they have shown it to be true. Look at this Rift Herald double teleport play. That ward deep in mid lane on the wave, I believe was earlier placed by Sword Art himself. And they had the control ward deeply placed up behind the Wolves as well. So 2 really good placements there for TSM preemptively. And then casting the Rift Herald towards their secondary turret there, giving plenty of time for Team Liquid to get baited in and congregate around this mid lane where they have no tower and TSM have the deep flank wards, is just such good planning. Back to our review though. Problem number 1 for TSM, it was solved, Captain Flowers. Mid-game as a problem, not showing up here for TSM in game number 1. Now, the question is posed to Team Liquid. Can they solve their later game issues? Tactical, getting caught out was a big issue for them. That one, thus far, has not occurred. On the Jhin, he can position very safely. He also has not participated in any of the mid-lane skirmishes in the early stages, so he's going to be still sitting at 0 kill participation for himself, and he's going to have to wait for these team fights to actually group up. Alphari does have flash.
Alphari trying to get away, but it's Huni's flash first, and they're committing to this one. TSM looking for the Gnar, but as soon as they see the teleport showing up, they immediately rethink that decision. They do not want to overcommit and throw away the lead that they have worked so hard to earn so far. So that's 2 flashes, excuse me, just the one from Huni there. It did buy enough time for Spica to get in range without using his own. But a flash traded for a TP here as the fight settles down.
Yeah, there's no way you're going to burst down Gnar with steel caps with the Thornmail there. Definitely tanky enough. And Spica on Udyr does not have a lot of burst damage, although he can follow up with the bear stun. So Alphari actually nerves of steel here. He just waits it out. He can tell there's no burst damage coming my way. Does not reactively flash to the offensive flash from Huni. And so it is a summoner spell positive trade here for Team Liquid. That being said, the side lane control actually might be a point where Team Liquid turn this one back in their favor. Alphari's also got teleport advantage over Huni, and he's got his Gnar Rage Bard in a decent position. So the step that Team Liquid need to take is to play some deeper wards themselves so that they could also have a timely arrival of Alphari from the side wave. If he pushes on Huni, there's not a lot that TSM can do to manage these waves. They have no teleports available for either Huni or Power of Evil, and Team Liquid can try and take advantage of that cooldown discrepancy.
It's up to Team Liquid to outplay in a macro sense, as TSM have been outplaying them in individual engagements, and that next engagement should come up here in under 30 seconds, Kobe, because that's the amount of time we got left until the next Drake spawns. If TSM get it, they move on to Soul Point, and that means TL has to come and contest every Drake for the rest of the game or give away that very powerful Infernal Soul. So you'll see both teams now rotating into that bottom side of the river. TSM have what looks to be control for now, but instead it's more of a standoff as Alphari goes forward and Huni dashes away just to make sure he doesn't get collapsed on there and burst it down.
You really have to respect the TSM frontline, because even though Renekton and Udyr are not great themselves at navigating these team fights, they do at least have flash on Spica, and what you're really worried about is the Seraphine ultimate from Sword Art being bounced off of those 2 frontliners. So when Spica and Huni run at you, it's not just them. They've also got the power of Seraphine right behind them to try and get a big ultimate. And that's why you don't want to have to run to this dragon through these little jungle corridors. You see Team Liquid right now, they're trying to get past these 2 blue buff entrances towards the river, so they don't have to line up for a really big ultimate from Sword Art, from TSM, and they're actually going to start the dragon up themselves.
Okay, Dragon has been started by Team Liquid with TSM right there next door, ready to contest it. Alphari will take a bit of damage here as he builds up the Gnar bar. Has it at about 95%. He's almost ready to go. The Drake's at 2K. Santorin's about to be killed off. Kept alive here by some of the healing and shielding. Spica's now a little bit too far forward. He's going to be killed. Nicely done by TL. They take out the enemy jungler and they take the Drake, tying those up here in this game. Curtain call fired off. 4th shot's not going to find the mark, but Alphari's moved forward and Huni's been found. Shockwave onto 2 with Alphari being kept alive here for the shielding. Santorin can't do much. Power of Evil does a lot. Huge ulti into the Team Liquid lines. TSM is turning around the fight, and they are killing everybody left, right, and center. Core JJ's running away, trying to find some way out of this one, but lost in hot pursuit. It doesn't matter if you got the blast cone, buddy. You're stuck between turrets and a misfortune. Just pick how you want to die. Death sentence won't do it, and TSM turns this fight around.
What an exchange for power of evil. He decides to be the main initiator on this re-engage, and the Azir ultimate turns it all around. Team Liquid caught by surprise there. All 4 members knocked up and pushed forward with the timing window tier 2. 5 seconds still left on most TL members. They do have double teleports they can try and use to contest this Baron. Let's see if Alphari is going to be enough to dissuade them from it.
Well, Alphari stands alone for a little while. Jensen's finally walking all the way over here, but look at Baron. Kobe, it's already down to 1,000. It's already out of the picture, and TSM pick up the big purple worm at 27 minutes.
TSM, they certainly seem to have cleaned up those communication issues. Power of Evil has been talking about how in the early stages of spring, it was so convoluted and complicated for them. But look at this. They focus on the dragon, even though TSM don't get the dragon smite initially, and they actually only use the Seraphine ult on the spell shield of Jensen, so Team Liquid go everybody forward. They think they've got it in the bag, even getting the 2-person shockwave. But PoE melts Alphari. It's just an Azir here firing free fire from the side, and as soon as he kills down Alphari, he goes right into the center of Team Liquid. That is every TSM fan chanting for PoE right now. PoE, the hero, bringing back this dragon fight for them. Look at those numbers, Captain Flowers.
5,187. I don't know if it was that image we played earlier of both their brains melding together or whatever, but this dude is truly the reincarnation of Bjergsen and how he carried this team so many times in playoff games, in high-stakes matches. PoE showing up at an incredibly pivotal point in the game to earn TSM a fight that then gets them a Baron and puts them at the state of the game where we're looking at on our screens right now, Kobe, taking their 5th turret, grabbing the tier 2 there. Hooney's getting caught out a little bit now. Shockwave into the curtain call. Everything being thrown at the boy, plus the kitchen sink. Surely he will fall here. It is Jensen picking up the money, but what is this? Team Liquid's going on a crocodile hunting adventure while they're losing all their structures in the top lane, killing Renekton when he's not exactly in a great, huge spot and needs to be shut down. Trading that away for a tier 3 turret, I'm not going to call that worth.
Well, they also trade it for an extra turret on bottom side as they commit Alphari to the counter push here. You see Alphari has no teleport, so Team Liquid, they make this call, hey, we're not going to fight this Baron at our inhibitor turret. We are actually going to go for a trade bottom side, commit Alphari down there. He's not going to recall or anything, and they go for a kill plus an even turret trade. The inhibitor is now exposed, but it's really just an opportunity until it gets capitalized on. In that small window, I do think Team Liquid make the best decision out of their situation, in being able to get a kill and still being able to open up an extra tower on the bottom side of the map. We will yet to be seeing, if TSM actually can re-push on this exposed inhibitor and punish them for it. But for the time being, TSM still wear purple for another 20 seconds. And it looks like PoE's got his eyes set on the secondary outer tower here, bottom side of the map, and will at least be able to put a dent in it.
Yeah, honestly, when you're looking at the plus gold from the Red Bull Baron buff here for the side of TSM, it's not very much. Plus 525 over the course of this entire thing. That turret will add a little bit more, take it up to about 1,000. But considering Baron itself is worth 1,500 gold, throwing 300 over to everybody on the team, it wasn't the most impressive Baron in terms of just the gold they got, but the big deal here is the fact that that top lane inhibitor turret fell. That is where so many teams make their stand. That is where so many teams will struggle to crack that line and need a Baron to get past those. But TSM now has an entry point if they so choose to take it. Next Drake is alive in 10 seconds, and so we're back to the dance, Mr. Kobe.
We certainly are, and Teleport is arriving. Everybody's here for the dance. Find your partners, Captain Flowers, because the dragon is actually on the rift. TSM have early access to the setup on this objective too, so Team Liquid once again are going to be forced to face check. TSM just burn it down.
And a Seraphine ulti onto 2 forces out a defensive Hecarim ulti, and that is a huge tool not available for Team Liquid. But now that Speak is too far forward, he has to flash away defensively as well. Core JJ with a massive pickup on the Power of Evil, but an even bigger turnaround coming out from him. They get a shutdown on the TSM mid laner, and Hooney's doing a great job zoning everybody else away. The curtain call will open up. TSM will look to disengage. Santorin doesn't have a lot of HP and he has to pick his moment perfectly. He does not, and he'll be beaten down instead. Team Liquid are not playing these fights well until Tactical just pops off with the big caliber in the handgun to finish off Spica. Now he's got to figure out a way to run all the way out of this one, dropping down a couple of traps, but it won't matter. Huni picks up the kill. It's 4 down on the side of TL, and TSM gets the Drake to boot.
And guess what? They have that exposed inhibitor, Flowers, so maybe we get to see the ramifications of it after all. Looks like TSM are just splitting to take up the rewards in the jungle, though. Can't quickly enough run up there and try and take it down. They will mine the rest of these jungle camps, all of them counter-jungled here in the aftermath. But my goodness, you mentioned it once again, Team Liquid on the re-engage. They've got some problems coordinating here as Alphari was turned into mini form and up in position behind the back of the Dragon Pit. So TSM, they just make the call to turn. Yeah, you've got us flanked here by a mini Gnar, but the mini Gnar is not going to even be able to join if they just turn right on the front line. And really good decision there by both Huni and Spica as they get the surprise engage, turning it around onto Team Liquid. And again, pulling back a victory in a team fight down here around Dragon, where Team Liquid actually make a very good opening play. They learned their lesson from last time. They cannot ignore Power of Evil. So poor JJ flashes in, gets the hook on him, and they trade support life for the mid laner's life. And that is a huge power up trade for Team Liquid. But you look at this positioning as well as mini Gnar transferring here. Alphari can't get over, and they just turn right back around onto the front line. Spica and Huni immediately stunning them up, for the extra damage there for Lost to be able to finish it off. And now TSM priority once again, pushing out mid. They've even got control wards over Baron, so they can easily rotate over.
And Team Liquid will take control over the top side river right now. But this gold lead has climbed up to 5,500. They are fighting from a true deficit. And TSM, even without the gold lead, just has been making better moves. So it's up to TL to pull off something crazy here if they want to get back into this game. Azir turret summoned up on the ruins of the Team Liquid Tier 1. TL running back away off to the left. It's Huni going in for the stun, but he doesn't get it. Instead, it is survival for Jensen thanks to the spell shield. And Huni's flash doesn't get much of anything here for TSM.
Yeah, not sure what he wanted to pop it with. You actually can't, like Stridebaker, pop those spell shields. So he goes in and immediately just stuns the spell shield. Flash used as well. So that's a big team fighting tool for Renekton, by the way. Really, really big difference between these late game Renektons with Flash and those without. Now Tactical, now Jensen. They don't have to be so afraid because you easily can peel with the Jhin, with the Thresh there, be able to create a lot more space for the team. Even though no objective traded in that little skirmish towards mid, Team Liquid definitely counting their lucky stars, as that is a decent cooldown down. I will say, though, with this extra vision control that TSM have kept over Baron, they can just return to this site and try and bait in Team Liquid again. There's only 1 minute left on this Dragon. So if TSM are able to push out both bottom and mid lane for themselves, an easy transition over towards the next Infernal Dragon, threatening that Infernal Soul, can be the third way that they actually bait Team Liquid into running through some of these corridors, lining up for a Seraphine ultimate, and into a difficult dragon fight for them to take. Plus, they just had a big power spike. TSM have completed the death cap on Power of Evil. This inventory is so ready for a fight, Flowers. He's got the stopwatch in his extra slot, and 4-item power spike Azir, level 18 Power of Evil on Azir.
This champion is so important to how these team fights play out. And in the last fight, we also saw how much damage Lost can do. Because remember, as Core JJ caught Power of Evil, it was Power of Evil's ulti tossing him back, and then the rest of his health bar evaporated under Lost's ult. Wasn't really anything else, just the ult. The power of this misfortune on 5.5 items too just cannot be underestimated. TSM is now using the lead that they have with the 3-2 Drake advantage to go over to Baron and start that up. They say, if you want the Drake, you can have it, but we're taking this. And Baron's already down to half HP. TSM staying grouped up around the pit, disengaging away from the objective. It's Huni who's jumped on first here with the damage. Power of Evil looking to disengage away from Alfari. Both top laners have lost some HP with a big bullet time coming out. Santorin being stuck a little bit with a wombo combo showing up from TL. 1 for 1 so far. Lost dominating now, his 6th kill of the game, taking out Santorin. But considering Power of Evil was the trade, that is not what TSM was looking for. Team Liquid walking away from the Baron now, heading back down towards mid. They've got to be careful. They don't want to fully disengage from this because there's so much damage potential on TSM. They could just go right back into the Baron. Yes, they will. They're not afraid. They are forcing Team Liquid to answer this. They can see, look, Tactical's got to walk all the way back up through mid. He was going down there to take the Drake as the one-man crew that you do like normal. But no, sir, it's not happening now. They're looking for a little bit more. Core JJ not going to grab the hook here. TSM coming in for the engage. That would have been a great time to have a Renekton flash. And Alfari goes forward. The shutdown over to Tactical. Could this be the throw from TSM as TL go for the Baron?
Oh my goodness, Flowers! They do jump back on Baron, but you have to ask, PoE is down. The strongest member here on TSM, late game Azir, with full items and inventory with the extra stopwatch for the team fight. There's no Azir here, so Team Liquid are happy to turn right back around. They actually take down this Baron while TSM are trying to go for the Dragon. Smite is here for TL, though. Santorin could just steal it.
They're going in and they got it! Stolen away by Team Liquid. Baron plus a Drake. They are getting everything done, coming right back into the game right now. Power of Evil nearly caught out. Onslaught of Shadows over the wall, but it won't find the target here in time. Huni is mad and the boys got his ulti to prove it. Core JJ coming around from the side. Huni stepping out of the way, but Huni's stuck. And he's farmed up just like the Krugs whose house he was chilling in. It's Team Liquid picking up another one. And TSM are 4v5 for the next 50 seconds.
It's time for playoffs to get wild, Captain Flowers. TSM back-to-back fight throws at the Baron, but now the recall goes off and Team Liquid have to run.
Spica going in for the flash onto Alfari. Doesn't have enough damage to go all the way in and must retreat before he's killed. Another flash not doing what it needs to here for TSM, and honestly, these last 5 minutes have been such a change in the momentum of the first 30.
What a reversal of fates for Team Liquid. They win 2 consecutive team fights on this Baron and then still are able to get their jungler down to the Dragon. Even though TSM pull off the Dragon, Huni and PoE stop DPSing it. Santorin and Jensen combined with the Shockwave, they just burst it down and are even able to chase PoE out, force his flash here on the retreat. Meanwhile, they still have Baron. They put off the Dragon Soul, getting to Dragon Soul point themselves, and got the extra shutdown money from the Renekton kill right onto Tactical. The correct place for them. This is now a full item build Jhin. Tactical late game, and Team Liquid are actually turning this one completely on its head. It is TSM with early game lead, but late game throw, late game out macro by Team Liquid.
This is a banger of a game to start off a best of 5, my friend. TSM, their lead one time at almost 6,000 gold, 59.48. There it is on your screen right now, their highest lead at any point this game. Just shy of 6K, and it's down to 1,000 now. A 5,000 gold swing over the course of the past couple of minutes. Still, that Red Bull Baron is around for another 40 seconds. TL are already at plus 3,300 on that play. They'll grab a little bit more up here. Nobody from TSM is coming to defend this turn. 12-10. That wasn't a typo. That's just a crit from the 4th shot of Tactical here on the Jhin. 6 items. Infinity Edge, Gale Force, Collector, that 4th thing, and Rapid Fire Cannon. All of those items have crit on them. That's 100% crit here on the Jhin.
Lord Dominic's regards are coming towards TSM as well now. Tactical just opening up to allow this super... ooh, that definitely hit
that thing has execute damage, by the way. It did half his health at full HP. If he was at 2/3 health, that just kills him. Alfari's going in now, looking to put in a little bit of extra damage. He's being careful enough to not get punished here by Huni. Huni is only at 2/3 HP though. TL moving into the enemy base, taking down the inhibitor, and the first inhib of the game. Despite TSM opening up the Team Liquid base a while back, it's TL 41 minutes into this game taking the first inhib.
All right, well, we're going to have a reset there from Team Liquid, sitting pretty here with their control over the map, taking out some of these jungle camps on the way out. And so we have time to go back to what got us here, Flowers. These Baron decisions from TSM. They've got the soul point up, and the dragon is actually alive over on the other half of the map. But if you go and start up Baron in those situations, Team Liquid doesn't have to send anybody over to this dragon. You're kind of banking on the fact that they will actually want to trade, stopping your soul for allowing you some extra time on Baron. Team Liquid don't take that trade though, so there's no reason for them. They actually just go contest this Baron, and Baron will do more damage and is more of a threat to you, than the single dragon. The Shockwave actually used.
Oh, he wasn't running, he wasn't walking, that boy wasn't going nowhere. Spica is just removed from the field of play, and he will respawn about 8 seconds before the Drake is live. With both teams at 3-3, this is soul no matter what.
And Team Liquid, they actually decide to pull the trigger there on the Shockwave. Jensen lets it rip, and they kill the front line. Everybody kind of standing around there. How much damage is it going to take off this Core JJ hook and this pick? And turns out, Lord Dominic does send his regards. Tactical was able to put in enough damage, and the Shockwave is able to CC him long enough. They actually just melt the front line. No problem there for Team Liquid.
Okay, TL still trying to stay together here as TSM goes in, looking for some damage. Hooney's out here pressuring into the back line. A nice Seraphine ulti onto 3, but it will not provide them the kill. They're going for the shots here. A couple more going through. Hooney's still alive. Holy cow! 1,269 damage. Seraphine's tour is canceled, and Team Liquid are marching into the enemy base, but Power of Evil is going in. There is no miracle happening today. TSM will not hold the line against this. A deadly flourish here at the very end. Core JJ's gone fishing, and Team Liquid caught the Bud Light ace. An incredible turnaround based off of the first half of this game. Team Liquid bring it back, and they'll take game 1 of the series.
What an opener to playoffs, Captain Flowers. We are starting out with such a contentious matchup here. Team Liquid correcting all of this early game in one fell swoop. Look at these smiles on their faces. Starting out with a dub with how shaky that opener was for them against TSM. TSM getting the early first blood, getting that Rift Herald money, and able to snowball through most of this game, getting into position where they have Soul Point and Baron, the last really big decision. And yet, they actually start up the more dangerous objective, the Baron. They get fought off it in a very close matchup and return to the Baron for 2 consecutive failed fights at this Baron. Power of Evil was taken out in the first one, so they didn't have the Azir to rely on, and Team Liquid are able to pry opening a win off that one mistake.
That was definitely one of those games that you don't know how it's going to end until that final team fight expires. What a way to start this best of 5 here. But it's time for us to take a break now with the first point on the board. Once we're back, the State Farm Analyst Desk is going to walk us through that Team Liquid win. We'll catch you there.
Hey, I didn't order any pizza.
Jake from State Farm. After you saved me so much dough on insurance with that Parker promo, I devised a promo for you.
Here's the deal, Parker. State Farm offers everyone surprisingly great rates.
Yeah, right. Pepperoni pockets, an atomic brownie, cuckoo crusties.
There's no promo, it's just great rates.
And a cider ranch. You're the man, man.
When you want the real deal, like a good neighbor, State Farm is there.
Welcome back to the LCS. I'm joined by Alfari, your MasterCard Player of the Week after an incredibly dominant 3-0 Week 6 with Team Liquid. Alfari, it's great to get the chance to speak with you. You've had such a dominant split, and I wanted to first ask you, what has this first split meant to you in a new region, new team, just about everything new?
I mean, it feels great, honestly, to have the performance I've had so far, and to, play with the team and to get used to the region and just, to play competitively again after such a long break, after not making playoffs in Origin. It's such a, confidence boost, although I was already very confident, right? After last year on Origin, of course, doubts start to creep into my mind, just natural. So yeah, it just feels good.
Honestly, you've been doing amazing this split. You even had great stats coming from the LEC last summer. Looking at that, you still have friends across the pond that are also doing well. Odo Omne is having an amazing split. How excited are you to get back to international play and be able to play against the LEC teams?
I'll be very excited to play internationally and to face up against, any of the LEC teams that will end up going to any international event, right? G2, obviously, I have huge respect for all of their players. Wonder Yankos are probably the most challenging top side that I've played against throughout my whole career. When they are playing, at their peak and playing through top, it's been a nightmare sometimes for me. So playing against G2 would be really fun. Playing against Rogue, they look very strong too. So any team would be really fun, pretty much.
Well, honestly, we would all love to see those games as well. I'm not going to lie. Final question for you, and I thank you so much for your time. Alfari, Team Liquid is 0-2 versus TSM now, and you're about to face them in a best-of-5 series. What is it about TSM that makes them so difficult for Liquid? And do you think the best-of-5 is going to give Liquid the edge?
Yeah, I think we do have the edge in the best-of-5. I don't really care too much about our 0-2 record against them. Obviously, it's not great, but I think that we weren't playing our best champions or our best styles against them. And basically, I think if we're going to play our best League of Legends, which I hope we're going to do, I think we're going to do in the best-of-5, we have a whole week to prepare exclusively for them, and we're going to really try hard to win against them. I don't put really any thought into the 0-2 during regular season. I'm just feeling confident regardless, pretty much.
That's awesome to hear. Looking ahead, I guess no reason to really look back at everything. It's already been accomplished. It's what's ahead of you now. Alfari, as we head back to the State Farm Analyst Desk, I want to thank you so much for your time.
Welcome back to the State Farm Analyst Desk. They may have entered the series with an 0-2 record against TSM, but in the best-of-5, they now stand tall at 1-0. Team Liquid grabbing that one out of the jaws of defeat, if I do say so myself.
Yeah!
Woo! A spicy way to kick off the postseason. But Emily, I want to come to you first. Let's start in a very natural place to start. It's the drafting phase. We had a lot of questions about any unique picks that might come out. They didn't hit us with any of that just yet. But what did you glean by the champion select that both teams put forward in terms of the strategies that they came prepared with today?
Yeah, so let's just forget the execution part of the game and take a look at this draft, because I think it showed that TSM put a pretty good amount of prep into coming up with something that they wanted to play into TL, and then supported that with their level 1, which we'll talk about later. But bringing out the MF Seraphine lane, I really liked. Typically, it's been banned on blue side a lot because people haven't wanted to pick it due to her strength. So they haven't wanted to play it necessarily, but they have to take it off because of her strength. So they also go for the Udyr Hecarim trade, and the big thing about Hecarim is that you really want pushing lanes for him, because he's not going to be like Udyr where he's going to zip around the map as quickly early. He wants to farm up, and TSM really did a good job of taking away that lane priority from TL early, and then had a really good early game to support that.
The one area of the draft I want to commend Team Liquid for is going for the Thresh. I think Thresh is always an incredible pick come playoffs because it enables you to have so many different options. And in the hands of Core JJ, you can do so much. And we got to see that in this game.
Yeah, it was supposed to be based off the early, early laning phase, so you can play with Hecarim and get a Thresh hook on the double range bot lane. But I thought TSM really prepared well because you can see that this is going to be the statement of the series, that they drafted for bot lane, let it go to 4-5, and then when TSM had to deal with what is a scary situation of Jhin, Thresh, kill lane, they late invaded and forced Core JJ and Tactical to deal with the jungle on that side of the map for quite some time. So if you're Team Liquid now, you're like, okay, we actually wanted to be able to play through bot lane. That's what we, drafted red side for. That's what we held the Thresh, pick as last one. We wanted to be able to have, or at least Jhin, they wanted to be able to have the bot lane secured on their end. But TSM played incredibly well, at least in the early laning phase, to be able to make it, or at least in the prep, actually, to make it so that wasn't going to be the case.
And they also forced TL to go topside, which is something that we've said is a major strength of TL's, and TL have been going topside a lot. But however, they've also had difficulty transferring that priority sometimes into objectives, into a stronger mid game. So having that split map trade actually, I think, favored TSM really heavily.
Well, and again, it wasn't necessarily a very kill-heavy game, but Crumbs, we kind of saw this theme of priority play in throughout the game itself. TSM again making use of it to invade on the blue buff and take some pretty big advantages.
It's something that TSM have always been known for, which is the focus around invading blue buffs because it denies the power of the enemy mid laner to shove out waves. So because now he has to smite it, they're now set up in this position where they drop deep wards and then double TP behind the carries. Once Jensen gets taken out, the fight is over. This was a really good play out of TSM, but despite these really overwhelming advantages in fights, Team Liquid was able to maintain the gold lead, keep it very steady so that they could capitalize if any opportunity happened where they could snatch the game back.
This is where I think it was really hard for Team Liquid because TSM had this setup where they had priority in both their bot lane because they sent their dual lane in that lane. They had Azir versus Orianna, so they had priority through mid. I think they messed it up a minute before because they tried the setup, but they were trying to attack two turrets at the same time without unlocking bot lane. So when they set it up again, Team Liquid couldn't really do much about it. And when they finally reset, come back onto the map, Team Liquid can't sweep all those wards out. Even the mid lane TP ward that was beautifully set up. I thought that TSM had a really good mentality because at the end of the day, both drafts want to be on the objective first. If you have a pick composition, you cannot be walking into Fog of War. You want to be able to be set up. So it's the Seraphine Udyr that's walking into you and you can get the chunk. But TSM, who had the prio based off of their draft, had everything coming to them, forcing the enemy team to walk into their Seraphine MF. I think everything up until that point was really good for TSM.
Yeah, we're not quite there yet, but we do talk about, and admittedly, we have the result of the game in hindsight, and so we know how it ended up going. But this was the point where behind the scenes, we were saying, this is your last shot, Team Liquid, to dive back into it all.
Watch PoE. This is actually a really sick flash out of him. Just saves the fight.
Yeah, this is where we were saying, like, off camera, it's like, oh, okay, it's already at the point where even this was about as good of a setup as TL were going to get, and they still ended up losing this fight, primarily because Azir was still able to get that ult off. But then, we all know what happens.
Yeah, we all know what happens next.
Yeah,
but
I mean,
just because we
Liquid
know it
definitely felt pressed.
Yeah, they felt pressed. Let's go ahead, but Emily mentioned it, so let's take a look at it. The point where it all fell apart for TSM, and I'm going to let her go on this because I know she's got a bit of a rant.
Yeah, so earlier off camera, I was joking when TSM were doing a Baron, or like hitting the Baron slightly before this, and I was like, oh, why are they doing damage not as quickly? And it was because they didn't have their Azir, and then they decided to opt into doing Baron without their Azir, who is their strongest Baron damage. Previously, we had given TSM a lot of praise for the way they set up in response to people taking objectives, and maybe now they need to look at how they set up for objectives themselves and who is available on their team. We did also see them not prioritizing dragon stacking. This is something that we've criticized TSM for in the season, when they're trading something for giving up dragon stacking, and the way that TL were able to get back into this via the Drake was also really important.
Yeah, and one thing I never want to see from teams is if you do make a mistake, do not let it snowball. Do not, overcomplicate the situation for you. So when they went for the Dragon because they felt as though Team Liquid was going to take Baron in base, I mean, TP is up from the side of Team Liquid, and they think they can get both. So TSM just needs to recognize, okay, we made an error. We have to we have to be able to play slowly so we don't find ourselves even worse situation. But that was just a hell of a snowball that we saw there.
Yeah, great composure, great recovery out of Team Liquid to pull that one back. I do want to have a quick look ahead, and I'm going to come to you, Crumbs, on this because it was TSM that took the loss and ultimately gets a side selection as a result. They're going to stick to blue side, just as they were here in Game 1. What, if anything, do you want to see different, or do you rely on a similar strategy and just better execution this time around?
I loved it. I love the game except that Baron play. I think that TSM can give you a salty run back. Now, does TL draft the same way? I doubt it, but I'm happy with what TSM played out. I think Team Liquid is happy that they took the win, but they'll make some slight draft adjustments.
Well, if there's one thing we're known for here in North America, it's a few of those salty run backs. Anything to add just before we go, Raz?
Yeah, salty run back. I pretty much agree with what Crumbs says, essentially.
All right, let's see if the teams are willing to give it to us. We are going to step away for a quick moment and a quick breather, but when we come back, it's TSM looking to even it up in this series against Team Liquid. We'll see you back here in just a few.
Romulus, your city will be finished in just one day.
Finished? My Colosseum! They'll never finish it today!
Unfortunately, we ran out of Red Bull.
Huh, so that's why Rome wasn't built in a day.